Guys, thank you very much for joining us. Gunther here from Outdoorphoto. In studio, I've got Roger, Canon, Machin here.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. No, it's always great having a chat with you. I mean, for those guys who don't know, Roger is everything that's got involved with Canon. He knows all the cool stuff that needs to come out, that's still on the way, that he's not going to confirm, but we'll have a look at the intricate nods. If we pay enough attention to the body language, we might get some information out of it.
I can neither confirm nor deny any of this.
But it's great. We're going to chat about just the evolution of photography. Sure. I mean, this whole conversation that we just had about how things have gone from, listen, it's time to switch to mirrorless.
Yeah. That's
pretty much done. It's
yes and no. Yeah.
You should be on mirrorless by now.
Yeah.
And the lenses.
Yeah.
I mean, especially, let's have a discussion about the lenses in terms of the RF mount and the technology that's gone into that and why it's been so good for you guys. And there's a lot of questions that we had downstairs about Sigma, Tamron, all the other brands. Why are they not bringing out RF lenses? Sure. Just catch us up on that, the whole story about they've got the bayonet mount,
right? But
it's all about the rest.
Well, if we're going to start there, let's start there. You know, there's a lot of talk, a lot of communication, a lot of discussion online about Canon giving the lens mount, or Canon giving the bayonet, or Canon giving the license. At the end of the day, and again, this is very much more a personal opinion than an official Canon statement. Yeah. And it goes back to, you know, don't just look at now, look at the past. And you and I have had this discussion when the RF mount came along. Everybody focused on the camera and didn't look at the lenses. And the same happened in the late 1980s when we launched the EF mount. You know, there was 2 or 3 cameras out there, the 600, the 650, the 620. They were all amateur cameras, but there was like a whole bunch of pro lenses. By the time the pro camera came along, there was already a stack of lenses that were there. We launched a new lens mount. The cameras were, you know, the tools to get that. And exactly the same thing happened with the RF mount. So the RF mount came as a bit of a surprise, obviously, to the industry. You know, they were expecting mirrorless to come along. They weren't expecting such a massive change in technology. Our engineers were given free range with the RF mount. You know, go and do what the hell you like. You know, when one of your first lenses coming out is a 2870 f2. Nobody else had ever done such a bright zoom lens ever before, and it was just unprecedented. That was in our first 4 lenses. You know, the day it was announced in September 2018. That was the surprise. Yes, everybody focused on the ESR, but that lens was actually even more important. It was a statement of intent that said, look...
It was kind of just Canon bragging. Look what we can do.
Well, yeah. In the greatest scheme of things, the biggest advantage we had from the get-go was we had that EF adapter. So all of the old lenses fitted and worked. So you could move into mirrorless quite seamlessly. Yeah. And in the greatest scheme of things, it's been amazing for us because we've got a lot of people moving over to mirrorless. It's been devastating for us because a lot of them haven't moved over to the RF lens mount. And we'll circle back to that in the conversation a little bit, but it's going back to that message where you were saying about the competing or the sort of third-party lens mounts. If you think for 1 second, Sigma, Tamron, you know, Tokina, all the different lanes out there haven't had access to our bayonet since September 2018. You're silly because the second we launched the mount, they went and bought one off the shelf and they started engineering the bayonet. They started, you know, working on the shorter flange back.
That's physics. It's not too tough to reverse engineer.
So they were already doing it for the other mounts for the competing brands, and they already had that sort of flange back distance, you know, construction type of thing working. So to reverse engineer the bayonet is absolutely nothing. In the greater scheme of things, the biggest thing that, again, personal opinion, not an official statement, from what I can gather is the autofocus change, the algorithm, the circuitry, the whole way the autofocus on the RF mount system works is substantially different to EF. We didn't just copy paste. There's a substantial improvement in terms of the performance. And the first thing you look at is the fact that something like the R6 II is 40 frames a second. The EF mount was never designed to go faster than 17, 18 frames a second. You can't just take an autofocus motor from like the EF 600 f4 and then just create an RF 600 f4 and all of a sudden it goes from being able to do 17 pictures a second to do 40 frames a second. There has to be a massive change. And the massive change just isn't just on the camera side of things in terms of how the sensor makes the decision as far as the subject's concerned. it's also going to drive the lens. So there's a distinct possibility that those competing manufacturers have already got the lens mount, they've already got the plan of action in place as to how they do it. The only thing is the license they have to get from Canon. And again, please note, not an official statement. This is my insight into how I think these things work and looking into the history of how things are. This is Roger talking. This isn't Roger from Canon talking. From what I can gather, when they say the license to use the mount is actually the license to use an autofocus technology they've developed themselves that is not in breach of the copyright of our autofocus technology. So it's more than just a bayonet. It is a lot more than bayonet. It's a lot more than that. It's about focus motors. It's about how the camera talks in autofocus to the lenses. An EF mount is a practical example. It was several years before, between when we launched the EF mount and before competitor lenses started arriving. And it's purely about that breach of copyright in terms of our software design. And this is why there's 7, 8, 9 brands out there already making manual focus RF mount lenses. Ta-da! Why is there other cameras out there with the RF mount cameras? So you've seen cinematics from Red and etc. with the RF bayonet. The big question is how well they work with autofocus. For the most part, they probably don't. In the greater scheme of things, it's just a bayonet. And overwhelming in the cinematic industry, they want to use manual focus. So from that side of things, the fact that there's bayonets out there, the fact that there's manual focus out there, gives you an indication. It's not about the mount. it's about
all the other technology and that you guys have developed in terms of that algorithm and how it all works together.
Sure, absolutely.
It's that whole combination.
Yeah.
And again, just touching on the EF lenses versus the RF lenses, Canon's great transition into mirrorless was because of that adapter and the communication between the old lenses and new camera.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now looking at the new lenses, there's a huge difference. I mean, we went to the Drakensbergen hike, schlepped along a 7200 EF on the first hike.
Yeah.
The second hike around, I was like, I need to drop 400 grams on a 7200 to the RF mount. And it's incredible.
Music,
Tech is amazing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Yes, the whole mentality about mirrorless was always, it's smaller and it's lighter. Our argument from get-go was not necessarily smaller and lighter. That 50mm 1.2 was huge. The 2870 f2 was huge, and everyone was looking at Canon going, I think you've got this mirrorless thing wrong. It's supposed to be smaller and lighter. And we're like, no, hang on a second. There's so much more.
Yeah.
That shorter flange back distance, that bigger bayonet allowed our engineers to have a whole bunch of free rein. The advantage of that EF mount adapter was that all your lenses could fit and work. So if you were waiting for a 2470 2.8 in the RF mount, you still had a 2470 2.8 you could use, which was amazing. And at the end of the day, it's been great for us, but it's also been devastating purely because of the fact that so many people have switched to mirrorless, but they're hanging on to their old lenses. Having said that, there's the amount of stuff that we've put in the market. We're now 5 years in, and we're sitting on 40 odd lenses in the RF mount.
That's insane.
And the same thing with EF mount. 5 years in, I think we only had about sort of 22. So we've made a huge commitment to the RF mount. There's more and more EF lenses being discontinued on a daily basis. They're getting harder to get hold of. They're getting harder to produce. And when they're harder to produce, obviously the price goes up, which is a considerable factor. But the advantage to RF mount, and it's not all about the 400 2.8. It's not only about the 100 500, that amazing piece of glass. Thanks South Africa, you guys bought 1,000 of those last year. It was brilliant.
What?
But the little 100 400, the lowest cost 100 400 mm lens we've ever made. And again, you don't have to believe me. Look at the reviews online. That lens is incredible. What you're paying for the lens versus the performance it's delivering, and people going, RF lenses are expensive, and we're going, well, yes, some of them are.
Look, it's just insane what you guys have brought out and what you've made available, because if I have a look at it from my side, we've got clients that come in, they're keen to get into photography. All of a sudden, manual photography. I'm doing the workshops and everything on introduction to manual photography. Dealing with people who are shooting mirrorless, it's so much easier because of the dynamic that what you see is what you're going to get in the viewfinder. Along with that, I've got another client that came in. They are interested in wildlife. They want to get into it. They spent a lot of money on the R6 Mark II. And that's a great base to take them for many years. But now they've started off with a 24 to 105 kit lens, the STM version. They've got the 100 to 400 mm. So they've already kind of touched and covered the main bases.
Fantastic.
And then they come back into the shop and they tell me, listen, we want to take photographs of stars.
All right.
Now I'm thinking RF 1535 is the sharpest ultra wide angle that I've shot with in my life. I love that lens, incredible piece of kit. But these people are not going to drop that amount of money on that lens. Don't worry, Canon's got an RF 16mm.
Yeah, and the 14 to 35 f4L. I mean, that don't underestimate that 14 to 35. It's still L series. Yes, it's f4. But as you rightly say, that 16mm 2.8 is absolutely insane. The latest firmware for the R6 Mark II says I can put the RFS 10 to 18 on there. So yes, I'm cropping from the 24 million down to 18 on million pixels, but I've still got a super cheap, super tiny little 10 to 18, which is hang on a second, this is crazy. There's so much options and so many more than people think. And yes, oh my gosh, when is Canon eventually going to launch the fast, 1.2 and 1.4 prime lenses? They're coming. When are they coming? Sometime in the future. Do you want a date? No.
Well, that's, just in the typical lineup like that. I mean, we've got 15 to 35 f2.8. We've got 28 to 70 f2. Yeah. We've got 2870 IS 2.8.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're making the conversation for us difficult in the shop.
Of course.
When you bring out a 24 to 105 f2.8.
Oh, yes. That lens is designed at a very, very specific purpose. It's a videographer's lens first and a photographer's lens second. If you looked at the price of a 2470 2.8 and you look at the price of that, you go, hang on a second, that's it's significantly more expensive. It really is. For the filmmakers, however, they want that extra bit of focal length. They like that 2.8, but they also don't want the lens to move forward when they turn it. So that internal zoom was a massive thing. And we thought, well, if we're going to do an internal zoom, we've got the power zoom technology. We've had it since the 1980s, for example. So put a little power zoom attachment on the side. When you have a look at that and you go, hang on a second, that lens plus the power zoom attachment to make it a beautiful video lens, it's a lot of money. It's in the six figures sort of story. It goes over 100 grand, and it comes as quite a big surprise. We try and make it kind of logical in the fact that we have the 2.8 flagship, the 2470 2.8. Yeah. We have an f4 L series alternative, the 24-105 f4L, and then we have a lower cost beginner alternative, the 24-105 STM. Yes, it's 3.5 to 5.6, so be it, but there is that choice. But having said that, the videographers like the idea of the internal zoom, they like the idea of a 2.8, they like the idea of the 24-105, and it's very much a move that we're starting to see from Canon in terms of, you want to ask about what direction Canon's going in. Hybrid shooting is most certainly it. The second we launched the R5C with a red button instead of a trigger finger, the second we launched that 24-105 with a zoom on the side there, it tells you everything that we're thinking of. It's cameras that are designed for photographers and also videographers. Lenses designed for photographers and videographers. There's no single purpose to anything nowadays. Everything has to be hybrid. And if you're looking at direction, that's a very, very clear indication of what we're looking at, what we're thinking.
I mean, even just touching on the functionality around the cameras and how quick and easy it is to set it up. We go through the courses that we present here on customizing your R5, R6, R6
Brilliant.
R7.
Thank you for that. Those are amazing.
It just makes life easier. The easier people can maneuver around these things. They are complex machines.
Of course. Yeah.
But as soon as you simplify it, people are like, what?
Yeah.
And one of the magic points that I enjoy sharing with people is when you go through the menu and you get to the video recording, that you're in the stills section.
Yeah.
And then I point out to the people, that little red button on the top, you're sitting there taking stills of the squirrel jumping on the giraffe's back riding into the sunset. You've got your shots.
I can see that.
And now you just hit that button, then you've got a quick video.
Yeah.
You just need 4 or 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you've got that with the images smashed together into a reel. There you go. Instagram, social media, whatever you want to do, promote yourself a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was having a discussion around this with a guy recently who's a very, very, very well-respected filmmaker in South Africa. We were talking about a whole bunch of other filmmakers. And he pointed out one guy in particular that I'd worked with in the past, and he shot some music videos for a local band called the Antwoord. And he was amazing. And he was a photographer first, and he became a videographer. And his insight into lighting, aperture, depth of field, shutter speeds, all that kind of story was so much better. And it's sort of a known entity. You want to be a big filmmaker, you want to be a good filmmaker, start as a photographer first. They make better filmmakers. And I love your mentality there. You're a stills photographer, don't be scared of the video button. It's right next to your shutter button. Please hit it.
Such an easy way to start and get into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't have to go and flick to full on video.
Yeah.
It's right there, just hit it.
And that double whammy of everything now being connected. So, everything's Wi-Fi. But also that thing that we did since, around about 2021, I think it was. All of the cameras can now record video vertically. So you go, why do I want to record video vertically? Well, because you want to Wi-Fi it to your phone and put it on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, you name it now, for views for viewing on a mobile platform.
I'll be very honest. I'm not a fan of vertical video.
I know. Yeah, none of us who are traditional photographers are, because who turns their TV on their wall in their lounge sideways?
I think the best description of it was I had a discussion with Matt Bouch.
Okay.
And he said he worked on a set where the producer said the day people are born with their eyes above one another is the day he will start shooting 9x16.
Yeah. Again, it's a thing, and the fact that we've got the products that do it. I mean, look at that little PowerShot V10 that we launched last year. All of us hold it like a video camera horizontally, because I'm watching it on a TV horizontally. I'm not going to watch some massive Hollywood blockbuster with my head turned to the side because my TV's on.
But it's insane. The last concert we went to, usually there's the big screens up everywhere.
Yeah.
Vertical screens.
Vertical screens.
I still get heartburn when I see a vertical. Come on, give me one.
I know. It's old school.
It's a personal thing. Yeah, it's a personal thing.
It's not only you.
Looking at 2024.
Yeah.
We would like to poke around a little bit. Find out what's happening with Canon. What are we looking forward to? There's obviously a ton of rumors. And I'm sure, especially in your position, and pretty much anybody working for Canon, a site like Canon Rumors is probably a nightmare.
Well,
how much of it is just to divert their attention off of products that are actually happening in the background?
Yeah.
I mean, simple example, you guys dropped 100 to 300 on my table to go out and go and test.
Yeah.
And the first thing I did was Google it.
Yeah.
And there was not a single thing about it on the web.
Yeah, yeah. Well, data security is massive. Unfortunately, the world that we live in, information about products, information about tech is completely and utterly top secret within organizations, purely because competitors will capitalize on it. It's a done thing. And if you think, I thought the camera industry was the worst till I saw the mobile phone, the smartphone industry. Apple would love to know what the next Huawei is, and Samsung. That stuff is super secret. And yes, there's lots of rumors out there. I will never confirm or deny anything on Canon rumors. But we, just as an example, internally, we're not allowed to look at Canon rumors unless we go via a VPN. Specifically because they started tracking Canon IP addresses. They understood, they started identifying Canon IP addresses, and they knew if they posted a rumor and all of a sudden all the Canon people were looking into it,
they were onto something.
And we were going, but hang on a second, we were just trying to find out who leaked the information, but we're actually giving information to him. Which is kind of ridiculous. The fact that there's a Nikon rumors, a Sony rumors, a Fuji rumors, it's a thing, and it's a known thing in the industry that there will be rumors out there. I can't tell you one way or the other whether there is subterfuge, whether there's anything that comes out from Canon that goes, throw this at Canon rumors, and so that sends people down that rabbit hole. But I will say to you, our security is substantially better than ever before. The fact that you didn't know about the 100, 300, the 200, 800 for me was the massive one. That was like 3 days beforehand that rumors started surfacing of it. And we were like, okay, wow, we've done well on this one. And it's great to see. It really, really is. And I mean, the 200, 800 is a testament to, the market sort of, oh my gosh, why didn't they do what XYZ brand did and stop at 600? Why is it F9? Why is it whatever? Nobody looked at it and said, oh, wow, Canon's launched their third 800mm lens in the mirrorless mount. Third. Compared to the other brand that's not gone beyond 600.
And that's incredible. I mean,
it's our third. What are we talking about?
I shot that thing. It's sharp. It's good. It's got its limits.
Yeah.
But, man, what a lacquer surprise.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, so many people say, I can't shoot with that, I need 5.6. Okay, well, go and buy the 5.6. Oh, it's so expensive. All right, then what do you want me to do? We'd all love a 50 to 1000 f2.8 that weighs a kilo and costs 10 grand. It just doesn't exist. The science is not there. I can make it, but God, it's going to be easier to look through the bottom of a milk bottle.
I think the not a problem. Let's call it a problem.
Yeah.
But it's a good problem that you guys have at the moment, because you're making it difficult to a certain degree.
Yeah.
To make recommendations to people.
Sure.
Because all of a sudden, do you need a 400 f2.8? Do you need a 100 to 300 2.8?
Yeah.
Or are you going to go 600 f4?
Yeah.
They're 3 completely different lenses. But Canon's made something that's so versatile, and in terms of the quality and the cameras and the focusing systems that you've got available, the kit works.
Yeah. Again, we're walking that line because it keeps getting thrown at me like, oh gosh, there's so many to choose from. Why do you do, like, the only reason we're making more is because the photographers ask for variety.
Yeah.
And then they're saying, I'm proud of my brand. Why aren't you competing with insert name of competitor here? They've got one of these. Why haven't you got one? So we do that. And then they're like, oh, geez, now I've got like 3 lenses to choose from rather than one. Like, but you asked us for it. So we answered what you wanted. And when we do it, it's like, oh, why didn't you do this? We're like, all right, we'll get right on that. We're overwhelmingly what we do and what we make is based on a variety of research patterns. And it's we're looking at trends in the industry. We're looking at insight that we've had in the past. We're looking at areas where if we don't have to do a product that's identical to the competitor, we can go ahead and do our own thing. That's fine. It's got its own appeal. It's a different market. Why should we copy what everybody else has done? But also, if there's already an EF lens in the market that fills that purpose, there's no rush for us to go and make that.
Yeah.
So, people say, oh, where's the RF mount 35 or 1.4? Have you used the EF 35 1.4? It's insane. How often do you need 40 frames a second on it? Okay, well, you don't. The focus mode, it gives you 15, but it doesn't matter. At this stage, those EF lenses are there. But again, those, unfortunately, because more and more people are switching to mirrorless, the second-hand value of those lenses is dropping because more and more are going into the market.
At a really fast rate.
Which
is sad because it's, especially in South Africa, I mean, obviously abroad, America has got 300 plus million people.
Yeah.
The market there is so much bigger.
Yeah.
But here in South Africa, there are only so many people taking photographs.
I'm not going to lie. The brilliant thing about all of those lenses in the second-hand market, and it's devastating for the SLR users because they're not getting top value for the gear that they've paid a fair amount of money for. It's going into the market. We've already got 7 of those. You're in that situation, going, shit, man, I'd love to give you, XYZ value, but I can't because I've got 3 others, or whatever the case may be. But for that first-time guy coming into that industry, not only are we probably the last brand still making SLRs out there, the fact that we've got 2 models in the sort of sub 10, 12,000 rand category, which is where mirrorless kind of starts. I mean, the R100's one of the cheapest mirrorless cameras out there at 12, 14,000 rand. It's fair whack of money. But we've got 2,000D and 4,000D for the first time buyer. We still sold like 7,000, 8,000 of those last year, which is amazing because there's still a huge market for SLR.
Yeah,
there's nobody else. Everybody's exited. So all of those guys are buying our 1855 kit lenses, which is fantastic. And they go, look on Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Bid or Buy, whatever it is. Sorry, Bob Shop, whatever it is nowadays. And they find secondhand EF glass. And they're getting amazing, L-series glass at crazy prices. And the journey for first-time buyers to go into the photographic thing,
changing.
It's massive and it's amazing. They'd all love to have the mirrorless cameras in their hands and show off to all their mates. But we know practically the South African market isn't affluent, and it's not just South Africa. I mean, it's around Southern Africa.
Advantages that we're enjoying from it to a specific degree. If somebody comes into the shop and they're getting into it now and they're getting serious and they're moving off of your entry-level lenses, then instead of going, they can't get to that top-end RF glass at the moment.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
EF works really well with the adapter on the mirrorless system.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then we've got those EF lenses still.
Sure. Yeah. And again, rolling back to 2024, and I mean, as you quite rightly know, I can neither confirm nor deny any rumors. I can't give you any hint or direction as far as what Canon definitely is going to produce and when it's coming out, because that non-disclosure agreement I signed carries a €50,000 fine, so that's just a non-starter. But I will say to you is. The lens side of things, now is the time to go and switch to the RF lenses. And we're seeing a lot of people doing it sooner rather than later, especially for the guys who've got high value L-series EF lenses. Watch how amazingly those mirrorless cameras start sparkling. Even if you got an R or an RP or one of the earliest EOS R cameras, see what they do on an RF lens versus an EF on an adapter. It's just there's something else. And it's almost impossible to put on a piece of paper, but you see this hang on, there's a performance improvement. It's not just about, autofocus speed, edge-to-edge sharpness, color rendition. Overall, there's just something to it. Those new lenses are phenomenal, and they're worth every penny. And I get it. It's painful. It is they're digging into the wallet to go and get those things when you've already got one in EF mount.
But when you start using it, you very quickly forget about that ANA.
Big time, because it adds something to your photography. It improves your hit ratio because of the focus speed. It improves your quality of the results that you're delivering. And if you've already got an EOS R body with an EF lens and you're looking at changing your R body, I would challenge you to rather say, change your lens first. And you and I have had this discussion how many years going back. The amount of people who come to you and say, I'm not happy with my photographs, I need a new camera. And we go, well, the problem is not the camera. The problem is the lens. Cameras come and go. Lenses are for a lifetime. You buy the best quality you possibly can where you can afford, and you upgrade the lens before you upgrade the body. The difference in your photography will be far more significant.
It's a difficult discussion, and I'd like to air it here with you because it's easier saying it to you than saying it to a client specifically. But I can already think of one specific client who come in with their 1DX and comparing it to the R3, and they're not happy with the image quality. They're getting better image quality out of the R3, but they're using the first gen of the 2470 EF lens. And there's only so much resolution coming through that lens. You can't compare that. I mean, it doesn't help I go and buy a new car and I put 2 models back tires onto this one.
Exactly. The other thing is there's this wonderful thing called DLO, and I've mentioned it before, the Digital Lens Optimizer. And this is the software that is designed by the engineer who designed the lens. And he knew when he made that 2470 2.8, in order to make it that size, that weight, that price, there was a sacrifice somewhere, whether it's chromatic aberration or pincushion distortion, or if it's vignetting, whatever the case may be, he's paid a price on that. So that engineer has now designed a software algorithm to improve that quality in post-processing. But the brilliant thing was when we did DSLR, we were never able to do this lens processing in camera. The first camera that had it was the 5D4. And if you turned the lens processing on in camera, the camera slowed down from 6 frames a second to 1 frame a second, and the processing took for ages. When we launched the EOS R, it had it built in. And having it built in, it was shooting at 8 frames a second, and it was processing at 8 frames a second. The new engines on all the new cameras have got the DLO built in. But if you're using an RF lens, that algorithm, that software is built into the lens. You have to turn it on in the camera. You have to turn that lens optimization on in camera, and it will improve that image substantially because it knows where the glitches are in the lens and it fixes them while you're shooting. 40 frames a second on the R6 II, it's happening, which is amazing. But the EF lenses are not loaded in the camera, and it's not loaded in the lens itself. So if you have 3 or 4 of those old lenses, I urge you to connect your camera to EOS Utility, the free software, putting it out there again. Connect your camera via USB to the EOS software, put your lens on, and then go to the lens information tab. Download the file and upload it to your camera. Your camera can save 5 lenses. There's 5 in there as default, and they're all the 2.8 lenses and the 50mm kind of thing. Yeah. Overwrite those files and put the lenses you have. And if it is a 2470 2.8 Mark I, you'll probably find there is a file available for it. Put it into your new mirrorless camera, put that lens on, and have a look-see. And then turn your lens optimizer on and see what it does, because you might actually be very pleasantly surprised. And again, I've done something that tells people not to buy RF lenses. But again, it's there.
Or if you're not that technically inclined, buy RF lens.
Or not technically inclined, come into Outdoorphoto and they'll do it for you. And free plug there.
Yes or no? Is there going to be a new camera at Olympics 2024?
I can neither confirm nor deny that. Again, you can look into the history. Traditionally, the big manufacturers put in a big sporting or whatever type camera in Olympic years.
Like FIFA or Olympics, typically Olympics.
Typically Olympics. The DX, the DX2, the DX3, they were all that sort of time period. The R3 came along a year later, which was kind of weird, but then the Olympics were delayed due to COVID. It's kind of weird. Read into it what you like. There's a lot of precedent for this kind of thing. 2024 is a very big year for Canon. It's our 90th anniversary. We started in 1934. Yeah. It stands to reason that there should be something big coming. So again, I can neither confirm nor deny. I can't give you an idea of dates or timing, but read what you like into it. And Canon remembers doesn't always get it completely and utterly wrong, but they also most of the time don't get it right. We file patents all the time. Last year we filed 3,500 patents in the US alone. That's 10 a day. It doesn't mean we've got 10 new products a day for the next 5 years, but some of those things are most certainly going to come to fruition. And I've seen some very interesting things recently in terms of patents that have been filed, and I'm quite intrigued. Because if that's the direction that Canon's looking at, then
some of the stuff that you guys bring out on the patents, I'm going to get back to the quicker questions on cameras and launches and things that you can't confirm or deny. But just touching on the what ratio of those patents actually see light of day?
1 in every insert number here.
All right.
It depends on the year. Sometimes there's a new tech that comes that we've invented for a laser print engine, and all of it suddenly gets put into every single product for the next 2 years. So that's 1 patent, but 75 products. I don't know. If there's a new autofocus algorithm, one of the ones I saw recently was something about defocusing. One of the biggest complaints that people have with mirrorless, if you're pointing it at a subject and it's completely out of focus, for it to find the subject, it sometimes sits there and goes, sorry, glitch. What I saw in that algorithm, and it was literally the last 5 days, says that Canon's writing something to make that quicker. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. I mean, that in my ears are pricked up, and I'd love to know that's true. We saw prototypes of lenses in Paris in 2015. Canon had the 600mm f4, which was 15 centimeters long, and weighed 700 grams. That was in 2015. We're now 9 years later. I haven't seen the light of that. Yeah. Having said that, we also showed a 120 million pixel and a 250 million pixel camera there. Haven't seen those. Having said that, we did also show a VR headset, and we also showed a camera with a VR lens. Now, we've already seen that 5.2 millimeter dual fisheye that works on the R5C and now on the R6 II with that firmware update. There's definitely a move there. And in light of the announcements from Apple and, was it Sony last week, in the VR headsets, augmented reality in VR is very much a direction that we could very much be interested in and looking into it, given the fact that we've already got a product at this stage, the R5, that'll give you the 2 4K screens. It's amazing. And also in the R6 II, it'll give you 2 full HD screens. You might have seen some prototypes under glass at CES last week. There's a whole bunch of people looking at an R7 with what looked like a twin fisheye lens on that. And like, okay, even I didn't know what that was, but the fact that it's a prototype that looks like it's something that's in a cage kind of goes, hang on a second, what is Canon thinking? We're most certainly not walking down the path that everybody thinks. Oh, why don't you do a thing like XYZ brand? Change. We're doing something different. And I mean, we've had that accusation, why don't you make an action cam? Well, there's a brand out there called GoPro that owns that market. Why would we walk into it and be brand number 2? Why don't you make a drone? Well, there's a brand called DJI who makes amazing stuff. Why do you make cranes? We're not going there. But there's other things that we can make that we have the forte on that could be interesting. And if VR, AR, and again, we saw prototypes of products in 2015 at the Paris Expo. And again, that was 8-9 years ago, seeing stuff then and seeing them come to fruition in things like that 5.2mm twin fisheye leads me to believe that there could well be something along that avenue. So again, another direction. Everybody's expecting this, and Canon does that. We keep you on your toes. We make your life difficult.
It is fascinating. I think keeping us on our toes. One of the things that I read recently was obviously with one of the competitive, I can say it's Sony 893 with a global shutter that came out. Yeah. Everybody's like, oh, they made it. They're the first guys on the market with a global shutter.
No.
And I read a statement that Canon said it's not going to be in the R1, but what they're working on will negate the conversation in any case.
Oh, well, it's interesting because again, I don't know too much about that. I haven't read that press statement, and was it an official statement from an official person at Canon? I don't know, but I do know that we also made a global shutter camera in the C700 FF, which was the full frame cinematic camera. It had a global shutter, and we know that there was something attached to that in terms of high ISO noise, in terms of dynamic range, because the pixel sites have to be whatever the case may be, and we have the tech. So, we have got global shutter tech. If we decide that it's not the best thing for the product, We won't put it in the product purely to have something on a spreadsheet that says world's first. We're not saying that we're not doing it. We're not saying that we are doing it. But at the end of the day, our mentality is always what's best for the consumer. Is it that critical to have it? Is it that critical that you need it, you must have it? Or is it possible that putting money into autofocus or putting money into that is a better investment? Then it could very well be. And again, this is very much more of a personal insight than an actual official statement.
Yeah.
I can believe that wholeheartedly from that Canon, if it's an official Canon spokesperson that says, we're not pushing global shutter because, as I say, if we do it and it's not perfect, that whatever that camera hypothetically has to be, it has to be perfect. Let's face it.
It's going to be the R1.
And kudos to that brand for that camera. It's an incredible statement, and it certainly made us sit up and take notice because, wow, that's a big statement. And
competition's good.
Yeah, and it drives technology, it drives progress, it drives innovation. And far be it for us. I'll never bash a competitor. I will always praise where credit is due, and that is most certainly worthy of our respect. Having said that, we ain't gonna take that lying down.
I have to keep on fishing here because I have to get something out of you that's not available somewhere else. What's going to be first, R5 II or R1?
It's the chicken or the egg. That non-disclosure agreement just says to me I can't say one way or the other.
Why do you guys have so much paperwork?
Well, again, don't blame us, blame the competition. And again, it's the age-old story, like we're talking about smartphone manufacturers. ABC brand would love to hear that XYZ brand was launching this on Tuesday, so they could go out on Monday and announce theirs and steal all the publicity, steal the front page of all the magazines. There's a reason why there's secrecy. And at the end of the day, when it's good, when it's ready, it'll come.
It's crazy how that stuff works because whoever's got the first one out, they steal all the publicity. And I think the only time when I saw somebody come out second with their announcement where they just absolutely blew away the first announcement was with the drones with GoPro and the Mavic. When that came out. I mean, GoPro was like, hey man, we've got a foldable drone that fits into a backpack. And that was insane. For 7 days. But
I mean, look at the 5D Mark II back in 2008. We were ready to announce the world's first DSLR with video, and then that other brand launched their camera 7 days ahead of us, and all of our marketing materials had to be changed at the last minute. With 5 days notice, we changed everything to world's first DSLR with full HD video because that's all we could do. And we launched the 5D II, and it outsold the other product like 10-1. And to this day, we call it the world changer because it was the camera that changed the world for us and changed the whole cinematic thing. The 5D II hadn't been what it was. Companies like Zacuto, who made all those accessories, wouldn't even exist. And you kind of go, the 5D II was the thing that made Zacuto happen. I mean, I can't put it down categorically, but it was one of the major things that drove that innovation. And it made companies like Sony, buy companies like Konica Minolta to get that SLR technology. It's all a thing, at the end of the day. But that 1 week notice between world's first SLR and world's first SLR with full HD video, it's a thing. You might have seen it in the last couple of years with the 400-2.8 and the 600 f4, the world's lightest by 22 grams. You're like, come on, guys, really? But
my shoelace weighs more.
This is a sad indictment of that market. Product leaks are incredibly important for us to manage, and in the greater scheme of things, it's not just us. Every brand. If you have the guy from insert brand here sitting in front of you, and you ask him questions, and he tells you something that's got any validity to it, he doesn't have a job for the next day, and he also won't get a job anywhere in the industry because he's the guy that leaked that from that brand.
Not the label you want.
We ain't giving him the job, regardless of what brand he worked for. It's a career limiting move. Anyway, you look at it.
I understand.
Yeah. And motorsport's probably the same. Phones are the same. Anyway, so move along.
Roger, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you
for coming through today. I look forward to everything that's going to come out or not come out in 2024 from Canon.
Exciting times,
and it is exciting times.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting stuff. Thanks very much, and thanks for the opportunity. I'd love to do this again. And when something new comes out, if there's questions that you're finding all of your customers are coming in like, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? Pull me in because, as I say, I've got a lot lot more insight into a lot more of the behind the scenes than most people have. And it may not necessarily be published in a spreadsheet. Prime example, sorry, I'm elaborating here a little bit, the EOS R8. Everybody saw that as an EOS R replacement, and it was an RP body, and it was confusing. And it was actually launched as a lightweight version of the R6 II. And like, when you see it as that, you go, hang on a second, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So please invite me back if you guys are happy with me yabbering for too long. But thanks again. It's been a great pleasure.
Look forward to it. Thank you guys once again for watching this episode. We look forward to bringing out more of this content to you guys. Enjoy the day. Cheers.